This is Tech Gears. My name is Levi, and today we're going to be comparing the two widest native lenses available from Sony. Let's jump right in. Alright, so one of the reasons Sony has such a huge advantage in the market is they have so many native E-mount lenses, as well as they've opened it up to third-party, giving them a huge advantage over pretty much any full-frame manufacturer, whether it's Nikon, Canon, Panasonic. The amount of lenses you have, specifically even on the wide end, is really just a riches, a spoils that a Sony user has available to them. But specific to that are the native glass. So today we're going to be comparing the two widest native lenses you can get from Sony, and that's the 14mm GM, and this thing is a beauty. It's a 1.8 fast aperture, built in, let's remove the lens cap, lens hood, and this can be used for a variety of things. We'll get into it. And then on the APS-C side, we have this little gem, the 11mm f1.8 as well, but is it APS-C? So first off, the biggest difference between these two is going to be, you would think, the size, right? I mean, that's a huge discrepancy in how these feel, how much they weigh, but I'm going to say it's the price. The 14mm GMaster is a $1,600 lens. Now, this is something that on the used market has been closer to $1,000 to $1,200. Again, very expensive. The 11mm, I believe, is about $400, $450, if I'm not mistaken, maybe a little bit less. So we're talking 3 to 4 times the difference in price. So today I'm not going to be comparing the details, the chromatic aberrations, the chroma, any kind of the fine details, the edge-to-edge sharpness. There's other reviews for that, but I believe for most uses, whether it's photos, videos, and the reason why you would have these wide angle lenses, whether it's for interior shots, for landscape, for video, just having that grand intro and establishing shots, I believe they both do a great job. And especially for video, it's going to be tough to tell which one is sharper, but I will say, obviously, at the end of the day, the GMaster does have an edge. This is a GMaster, and there is a look to it that is really sharp and very pleasing to the eye. But having used the 11mm, especially when shooting like 4K video and not getting detailed shots for photography, it is on par and still a great little lens. So today we're going to go through a few videos, not photos. Again, if you're doing astrophotography, obviously the wide open 14 1.8 may be the better lens from your edge to edge, but what little I know about astrophotography, and you guys feel free to roast me in the comments, you're generally shooting at really low shutter speeds where you're really dropping that. You want to use maybe a remote control, so having a faster aperture isn't always better, but obviously having a very sharp lens. I know something like the 20mm 1.8, which I'm shooting on right now, gets a really good reputation as far as shooting astrophotography, and the 14 as well, just being able how it renders the sky and renders the image, and especially high resolution images. So there's reasons specifically why you would get the 14. But if we're going to be talking about landscape, establishing shots, vlogging, interior shots, that's where we're going to be diving into. So the first shot I want to look here is just using it as a vlog, just holding it in your hand. And in these shots, you're going to notice I'm shooting both of these lenses in full frame. Now, with a Sony camera, most Sony cameras in the last few years have what's called active steady shot. That's going to crop into your image 10%. And for video, the 11mm APS-C is essentially a full frame. So again, going back to these shots, you're going to notice how much wider the 11mm is. Now again, if you're center of the frame, you're holding it, I think the image looks fine. You do start to have some distortion on the edges, of course. So if you're using this for like group shots, the 14mm is going to be the way to go. I think something like a 16mm or 16 to 35 kind of range is going to be a little bit better for group shots if you are using this, say, for like wedding photography versus like an establishing interior shots. Now, I do not have a kind of grandiose intro I would love to show, but I just wanted to show kind of an establishing shot here. And at first we look at the 14 and it looks great, right? You see that edge to edge, the lines look fantastic. But then when we switch over to the 11mm, all right, let's take a look here. You're going to notice how much more of the image of the scene you're really captivated into, and it just looks awesome. The 11mm is just getting that much more. We'll compare these and kind of see which one looks better, quote unquote. But honestly, for the price that you can get an 11mm 4 times cheaper, use it on full frame glass, on full frame cameras, all of a sudden the 14mm starts to have a little bit less value than it did before the 11mm was released. And finally, I just wanted to do kind of a static shot showing you guys how much more of the image we have here. So the 11mm is an APS-C lens that's giving you about a 16.5 focal view. So if we look at that kind of field of view, this is the shot we're getting at the 11mm. 16mm looks fine. Now, if we put the 14mm on, it's a little bit wider. All right, this looks a little better. We're getting a little bit more of the image here in the scene. And it is a big jump from 16 to 14. You really do notice that on those wide angle lenses, 2mm goes a long way. And from the 14, we're going to go to the 11. And all of a sudden you get so much more in this shot. And it really is a drastic jump from that 14 to 11, and the fact that you're pretty much getting it full frame on this quote-unquote APS-C lens. Now, like I said before, active steady shot is about 10% crop. So if you are shooting photography, you are going to have to punch in and you're going to lose some of your image because you need to go in about 10%. If you want to be safe, depending what you're doing, 15%. But this is definitely not something where you need that full 1.5 times crop on an APS-C camera. This is an astonishingly wide lens. Not only that, but for someone who is looking for an ultra light small piece of kit, especially for travel, if you're using this for landscape or lenses in your bag, this tiny thing goes a long way versus bringing this with you. And this, although it's an amazing lens, you can see this is just crazy, the difference here. So yeah, I enjoyed my time with the 14mm, what this offered compared to the other big bow. I do have the 12 to 24 GMaster, and that is what I use for most of my establishing shots when I do gigs. That is a big lens. I feel like it's twice this size. And if I need to go full frame, 12mm wide, and both of these GMasters do a great job with keeping lines straight. So even if it's a wide shot, you're not getting any of that kind of wide curvature. The 11mm does a decent job. I am not disappointed in it, but obviously I can still tell my GMasters are better. So that 12 to 24 is still going to stay in my kit. But as far as bringing something lightweight when I want to, where I just need a prime, the fact that these are both f1.8, which is fairly fast, lets in a decent amount of light, I'm probably going to stick with the 11. And this 14mm is going on the block, unfortunately. So does that mean Sony outdid themselves with the 11mm over the 14mm GMaster? Maybe, but like I said in the beginning, it just depends what you're using this for. Are you doing real estate videos, real estate photography, landscape? astrophotography? Are you just using this as a vlogging lens or a talking head, where on an APS-C, this 11mm is a 16 and a little bit tighter of a crop and it's fantastic. But the fact that you can use this on full frame, it's unbelievable. And the fact that you can use this on the ZV-E1, which is a full frame Sony video camera, what I'm shooting this on now, the dynamic steady shot has a 30% crop. So all of a sudden this 11mm is closer to the 14, whereas if I'm using this 14, all of a sudden now I'm in the same field of view as this 20mm lens. So just for the sake of having a little more disparity between the lenses and what I'm owning, having already have the 20mm, now I have the 11. The 14mm, since I don't do astrophotography, at least for me, has kind of fallen to the wayside. But depending what you're doing, it may still be an excellent lens for your type of creativity. But hopefully that helps you guys if you're looking for a wide angle lens. If you're looking to do maybe it's photo or video, which one of these might be better for you. But for the budget, for the size, for the field of view, and for mostly video what I'm doing, this little gem has been absolutely fantastic. Well guys, hopefully that helps you out. My name is Levi with Tech Gears. Really appreciate you, and I'll come at you later.